Hey everybody, Eric here with just a few announcements. We have another public investigation coming up March 17th and 18th at the amazing, beautiful, haunted Thomas House Hotel in Red Bowling Springs, Tennessee. Tickets are $125 a person. That includes a private room, your own private room for the night, a ghost hunt with myself, Medics for Paranormal, and PPF Investigations. You also get dinner and then breakfast the next AM. So that's a lot of value for the $125. We always have a good time out there. And come investigate with us. It'll be a good night. Also, another thing to keep your eye on, we will be announcing the date for our 2023 Tennessee Haunts and Legends Expo. This will be our second paranormal convention. We did one last year. We decided to change the name, and we're going to bring it to you at a bigger and better location, a lot bigger and better than it was last year. So stay on the lookout for the Tennessee Haunts and Legends Expo information coming at you very soon. And the links to all that stuff, go over to the social medias, and you will see the links for the Thomas House investigation and for the info for the Tennessee Haunts and Legends Expo. Also, go join the Tennessee Haunts and Legends Expo page for vendor information coming up later on this year and speaker information. So I think that's all I got for now. So y'all enjoy this episode with the awesome Austin Lawrence, and go check out the Phantom Farm documentary on Prime Video. Once again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all later. Join us as we dive into the history, hauntings, and high strange of the world to try to better understand the paranormal. I will be your guide. I am paranormal researcher and investigator Eric Freeman-Sims. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Today we welcome author and investigator Austin Lawrence. We're going to chat with Austin about his experiences with the paranormal, his book, Taylor Mill Horror, and upcoming documentary, Phantom Farm. You can grab your own copy of Taylor Mill Horror on Amazon, Kindle, or at taylormillhorror.com. And the documentary Phantom Farm is available to rent actually today on Prime Video, February 15th. So go check that out. It is awesome. I have seen a review copy of it, and it is definitely in my top 5. It is awesome. You don't want to miss this paranormal documentary. So let's bring Austin on. Hey, Austin, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I kind of became familiar with you, like I was telling you, through Bob and Brittany, and then through the documentary Phantom Farm. And I found your book, and I love these type books that are about one location and about the family's experience and your own experience with going investigating.
Yeah.
I think they're just some of the most fascinating stories out there. And the book was great. I've read it, and the way you wrote it and so much detail about what the family went through, and you kind of get to know the family before you get into when y'all came in to investigate.
Right.
But first off, let's start at the beginning. So how did you get into the paranormal to begin with, to get into doing documentaries and writing books and all that stuff?
That's a good question. Actually, Bob and Bernie and I were talking about that the other day, and the first experience that I can distinctly remember now, I live in a home that I grew up in. It's over 100 years old. We don't know how old it is. Apparently built on top of a Native American burial ground. We did find a lot of Native American artifacts in the yard over the years. So needless to say, it's kind of like the perfect spot for quote unquote haunting. If you go by the stereotypical explanations and stuff like that. And I had some experiences as a kid growing up, and just weird things happening here and there throughout my life. So I always kind of wondered what was going on, what was out there, whether it be ghosts, UFOs, cryptids. I mean, I remember being in elementary school checking out books about these types of things. So, I mean, my interest goes way back. I think largely because of experiences I did have in the home that I still live in today.
Yeah, and when I had Bob and Brittany from Tales from Dark on the show, Bob said if he's ever seen anybody that is fucking haunted, it's definitely you.
How did I already know what you were going to say? Because there's a really funny story that I'll tell real quick. So we were watching the premiere of Phantom Farm, over at Bob and Brittany's house, and we were like partway through it. We paused it, and then instantly, like all the lights in the room went out. And Bob was like, "That has never happened before. What's going on?" And instantly, everyone, we had the entire cast there, just looks at me and gives me this dirty look. I'm like, "What? I didn't do anything." And Tyler Taylor's just like, "Hey, Nick, you're haunted." I'm like, "Come on."
You done brought your shit to my house.
Yeah, so then Brittany had to go through and she cleansed the entire house and cleansed me, and yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. But yeah, we talked, just so you know, if you want to go back and listen to the episode, we did talk about you a little bit with the documentary and stuff. But yeah, Bob did say that.
Oh yeah, I did listen to that a few times.
So of course, you've been an investigator for a long time, and so it was an interesting way how you got involved with this Taylor Mill haunting in this house.
Yes, absolutely. So basically what had happened was that we were investigating for a while. We were putting out videos and stuff like that. And we kind of got to the point where we're like, okay, we got to do something else, something bigger, something that'll, hopefully bring us more attention. At the time, Bobby Mackey's was the thing. So we're like, all right, let's go to Bobby Mackey's. So we shelled out way too much money to go to Bobby Mackey's. And when we did that, the lady who was running Bobby Mackey's was like, hey, there's this house down the road. It's supposedly haunted. Would you guys like to stay there? And we're like, well, supposedly haunted. This place isn't haunted, but we got a place to stay. Let's go there. Let's stay the night. I think it was like 15, 20 minutes away. So that's basically how we got involved. We knew none of the history, still nothing about it other than supposedly haunted. And we just heard, hey, here's a place to stay after you shelled out like $1,200 to go to Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah, Bobby Mackey's, I don't know what you think about that place, but I think it's kind of overrated.
Yeah, I mean, to say the very least, Bobby Mackey's was extremely, extremely underwhelming. Really didn't have much going on. And in fact, we booked, I think we only got like 8 hours for $1,200, which is insane. And after about 6 hours, they ended up kicking us out because they said we weren't taking things seriously enough when realistically she was just walking around with some faulty devices claiming that there's stuff going on when really there wasn't.
Yeah, and I'm always preaching because everybody's seen it on Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters and all these other shows, and I'm always preaching, like, just understand that that's entertainment.
Exactly, and that's what Bobby Mackey's is, I believe. It's a show, it's a theatrical experience that you're paying for. You're not going there to seriously investigate if you book one of those.
Yeah, and even when I've seen Bobby Mackey on some of those shows, he's like, I don't believe in this shit. He's like,
no.
and it's his club, and he's been there for like 20-something years or more.
Exactly. I mean, I will say it was a really cool place to be. I would recommend anyone to go there. Just don't pay for the investigation because it's really cool to see like how was a speakeasy. And they still have a lot of that stuff there. As far as the part of the history, cool place. As far as paranormal, don't waste your time, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's still a performance venue because they still have like old country stars and people come there and play, and so you can actually go there without the ghost stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I would recommend that, but don't pay for the investigation, please.
So y'all are up in that part of Kentucky doing Bobby Mackey's, and so you got you heard about this house,
right? Yeah. So we heard about the house, and like I said, we were gonna go there, we're gonna stay. So when we roll up, it was basically an entirely like new house. It was a really nice house out in kind of the middle of nowhere on Taylor Mill Road. And we go in there, and we're just getting ready to relax. We've got some time to kill before Bobby Mackey's, which is what we were thinking about. So we're just kind of exploring the house. And I remember, I believe my partner was in a 4-bedroom, and his dad, who came along with us, was all the way upstairs. And I walk into this room, and a woman said hello to me really loud enough that everyone in the house heard it. And they all come running to me. They're like, did you hear that? I'm like, yeah, that came from this room. And this is, broad daylight. So we're just looking around like, where did that come from? We looked outside, see if there's anything going on. I mean, there was no houses really that close. And then we're like, all right, let's get some equipment, see if there might be something going on here, because this is kind of strange.
Yeah, that's crazy to just, you're just going in this house. And I always find it interesting when you're setting up at a place or something and you automatically have activity, because then you're like, oh, it's on. Like it's, if I'm already hearing shit and experiencing shit from the get-go, oh yeah, it's going to be a good night to investigate.
Yeah, exactly. And, like we weren't expecting to investigate. All of our gear was still in the car. We really didn't want to investigate this place. But, that really quickly changed.
Yeah, so y'all ended up investigating that night. Like you said, you
Right.
broke the equipment out, and you kind of didn't want to leave the house. It had some kind of hold on you for some reason.
Yeah, it's really strange. It did have some sort of like hold on us. Even when we went back, we ended up staying like a total of 2 weeks. We knew how bad it was, and at points we literally thought that we might die in the house, but yet we never left it. And I don't know how to explain it. It's really strange, but somehow, I mean, we didn't even leave to go get anything to eat. We stayed in there 24/7, and I can't exactly explain why.
Yeah, it's weird how some houses just pull people in, and that kind of is what happened to the owner who owned the house before. And we'll go back to the beginning with the owners here in a minute, but because they had lots of experiences, kind of drove them out of the house.
Right.
But the owner, that's what he described when he bought the house, was that he just was drawn to it, like he had to have it.
Correct. Yeah, and that was a really odd story, especially because it's out in the middle of nowhere, and the fact that he had family ties to it that he never knew about prior to purchasing the home. I mean, it's all together just a wild, crazy story that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and so when you met the family, some crazy stuff was going on with them.
Yeah, so we actually did meet the owner, and he was actually the first time we went. We wanted to talk to him, and they're like, after he had all this activity, and they're like, "Well, he's in the hospital. Like, this guy's dying." And we're like, "This is what's going on here?" So eventually, he ended up getting out of the hospital. This was the second time that we went back, and they said he'll never come back to the home. Don't even ask. He'll never come back. Well, we asked him, and he ended up coming back. Yeah, I mean, he was on his deathbed, and he swears to this day that what caused him to get to his deathbed was what was going on in that house. And, prior to that, he was actually a bodybuilder. He told us he used to just take tires and just throw them in the backyard to train. He was this big man, had his own construction company. And when we saw him, he was just a shriveled up man that, I mean, didn't weigh anything over like 160 pounds, and just he looked like he was dying.
Yeah, and people can actually go on your TikTok, Taylor Mill Horror on TikTok, and you've got some of the videos of where you interviewed him in the house.
Right, yeah. There's a couple short videos on there with some pretty weird things that happened during that interview.
Yeah, I watched all those. It's pretty crazy. But also to hear it from, after reading the book, to also actually see him and hear some of the stuff from his own point of view is kind of neat too.
Yeah, that was an experience to really sit down with him and talk to him, because I mean, this was genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. I remember there was a big snowstorm, and he was like, "Hey, I'm like 2 hours away. If you guys want some food, I'll come. I got a truck with 4-wheel drive. I'll come get you guys some stuff." And we're like, "No, man, we're fine." But he was always checking in on us. Can I get you anything? Do you need anything? And yeah, he was one of the nicest, most down to earth people. And to hear these stories come from him, it has some credence.
Yeah, and so y'all ended up staying there for a week. Ended up going back and investigating and staying in the house for a whole week. But before we talk about that and your experiences, let's go back and talk about the family. So they moved into the house and kind of started having experiences from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely. And he said that his wife, he doesn't think she was so much a non-believer as much she was like maybe used to activity because she worked in hospice. So she didn't quite pick up on the stuff like he did, but he would have literally everything from dolls talking that shouldn't talk. They would he told the story about when he was home alone, he'd hear someone walking around and opening and closing doors. And then one night his mother came to the house to do laundry in the basement, and she heard someone walking, open and close doors, and asked him why he came home. He was like, "I'm not at home. I'm at work." He was like, "You're dealing with the spirit." And he also had this thing where he wouldn't want to leave the house. Like I said, he was an entrepreneur. He was very successful, and then he just stopped working. He stopped. He said he turned off his phone. He would be getting calls. He just wouldn't work, and then he'd have these fits of rage where he would lash out at his family. He would rip doors off the hinges, and just things that I can't imagine that this guy would have done, down to the point where he tried to take his own life multiple times in that home because these things kept eating at him, and it's just unfathomable to me.
Yeah, and I find it interesting too, because a lot of these stories that you hear about these houses over and over again, it's usually like the wife and the kids that have a lot of the experiences. And
Right.
the husband is kind of in denial and doesn't really have any experiences. But for them, it was mostly geared towards him.
Yeah, that's the way it seemed. Now his daughter did have experiences. She claimed that there was someone in her closet and she was afraid of this mean woman, but it was nothing to the extent that what he was experiencing.
Yeah, and also the cops. He showed up one night after work, and the cops were at his house.
Yeah, so that's absolutely a true story. We actually even spoke to the police department about it. And multiple occasions, the police were called because they hear women screaming. And in fact, when we went there, it would have been the last day that we were there. We actually brought one of the neighbors in who had never been in the home. Now, this neighbor lived back behind his house. And in fact, she and her husband walled off half of their house because she said that an evil, dark entity roams that house. They couldn't keep light bulbs. They couldn't keep electricity in there. And they would see this dark shadow figure in there. And they had this big, beautiful home that they literally walled off an entire half of just to keep the entity over there.
Wow.
But when she was in her house back there, she heard a woman screaming, so she came out to check on us. And we're like, no, there's no women with us. So it's something that was still going on, probably to this day, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and they also had a priest come in, and the gentleman that we're talking about that owned the house, he really didn't believe in anything. He didn't believe in God or religion. No. He didn't believe in ghosts before they moved in this house. Didn't believe in any of that.
No, not at all. And basically what he would always say is he said, I'm a tough motherfucker and I don't believe anything can ever hurt me or harm me, and I don't believe in all this other stuff. I didn't believe in religion. I didn't believe in ghosts or anything like that. So they did bring in the priest. Now, some of the stuff in the book that happened to the priest, I know we get cut out really early, was actually us. But to keep the story rolling, I kind of decided, we introduced the priest, let's bring him, keep him going instead of us being there, us leaving, us coming back, us leaving.
Yeah.
But there was indeed a priest there, and he did indeed get thrown out of a chair onto a table while he was sleeping. So he had some crazy experiences there. And after that happened, he actually got up and ran out of the house and didn't come back.
Wow. That's you hear stories like that with these families in these crazy houses like this time and time again. They turn to the only people they know that can help them, like a priest, and then they end up not getting any help because shit like that happens.
Exactly.
And the priest is like, "No, I'm not coming back."
Yeah, I can't blame him.
Right, but also, that kind of leaves that family like, well, what are we supposed to do? If it's scared this priest to where he's not coming back, then what the hell are we supposed to do? Yeah,
and that's where they were at, and they got to the point where they would actually rent out hotels once or twice a week just so that they could sleep. And he told us, whenever we're at the home, we're all fighting, arguing, everything else. He said, we go to these hotels, everything's okay. He said that everyone's loving, calm. It's perfect family and everything. And so they would have to constantly just go to a hotel for a day or two just to get some rest, to, clear their minds and everything else until they end up moving out of the home.
Yeah. And I also always feel for these families because, especially as a parent, I'm not a parent, but looking at them as parents, you're supposed to be able to protect your child from anything. And
exactly,
in these cases, there's no way. It's something that you're fighting against, something you can't see, don't understand. And then, like we were saying, having the priest run out and you're looking for answers and somebody to help you, it has to be like a hopeless feeling. Especially one of the themes in the book is like he keeps saying like, but why is this happening? Because like everything is perfect. We're finally happy. Right. We have a nice house. Everything's going great for us. And then this shit happens.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to the whole helpless deal, like I said, he was this big bodybuilder, and that's what he told us. He said, he actually went and he cussed out these entities, and he said it was probably bad in the long run. Like looking back at it, I probably shouldn't have done all that, but how can someone mess with me and my family, and I can't do anything about it? It's just so powerful to think about. I just, like you said, I can't imagine being in that situation like that.
Yeah, and just being completely hopeless, and also having this beautiful house that for all intents and purposes,
Right.
you know, it's nice, and you know, you kind of have your dream home or whatever, and it's plagued by this bullshit.
Exactly. And it's, it's kind of funny because, like I said, we rolled up on this really nice house and we come to find out that that's actually a rebuild on top of the old structure, which the previous owners, they said that they tried to burn down the home, and it looked like there was chainsaws taken to the walls and the structural support beams. And they thought that maybe it was drug addicts who lived there, and they just abandoned the home afterwards. And I'm constantly following this home, like on Zillow and all that stuff. And I've seen over the past like 5 years, this home's changed hands like 10 times. In fact, the house was listed for like $150,000 and it sold for $30,000. And no one has stayed there for more than a year, except for one man who's like in his 70s, and he's owned the home for about 5 years now, but he has another address that he lives in. So I think his property is probably still sitting vacant, and he just owns it. And like the previous owner, he couldn't sell it, so the bank just took it over eventually. He just left it. That seems to be the theme with this place. People buy it and then they move out, and the property just sits there.
Yeah. Also taking the responsibility of, okay, all this shit's happened to me and my family. You know, what kind of burden is that to want to sell that to somebody else or somebody else's family?
Exactly.
To go through the same shit that you've been going through.
Exactly. But he actually wanted to move back in the home. Once again, we talk about that draw. And he was talking to us about that. He was like, I really want to move back in here. He was like, I don't know why. He was like, but my daughter won't even come on this road. She won't even look at this place. And my wife wants to have nothing to do with it. He's like, for some reason, I want to move back into this home.
Yeah, that's crazy to have that kind of draw, even though all, all this stuff, and, like you were saying that he attempted suicide because of the house, and his family is, on the verge of collapsing, but he still has this need or want to be there.
Yeah, it just seems to have a weird hold somehow on certain people. I don't know what it is.
And you said that that there was actually ties to their family that they didn't know about.
Right. Yeah. So it was actually for years and years and years since that structure was built. I think it's changed since they abandoned the property, but it was all owned under the same family and the same like lineage. And after they bought it, they were digging into the property once all this stuff's happening to see what could potentially be causing all this activity. And they found that the people who built the home and the family who's owned it all these years was actually connected to his wife, shared his wife's maiden name. So they found that, and that was obviously pretty shocking.
Yeah, that is crazy. They just randomly buy this house, and yeah, it's somehow his wife's related to the people who have owned this for 100 years. That is just
exactly.
That's beyond like coincidence. You get into like the synchronicity shit with that.
Right, and the fact that she wasn't even the one who wanted the home. He just found the home and would literally sit in the driveway for, he told me, like 8-10 hours sometimes, just looking at the house before it was even for sale.
Yeah.
I don't understand
it. Yeah. And y'all also found out that, like you said, the house behind theirs, they had walled off half of their house. But some of the other structures around there, some of the other houses around there actually had issues as well.
Yeah, so there was like 3 homes like in that little area on that road. And so you had the one in the back that was having a lot of activity, and the one next to it, it was a older woman. And we tried to talk to her about the activity because someone told us that she was having it too. And she wouldn't talk about it, but all she would say, she was like, I'll tell you this. She said, I keep my crucifix on me at all times, and my lights stay on 24/7. And they did. She never turned off a single light in her home.
Wow.
Because she was so terrified.
Yeah. It seems like you would do, everything you could to get the hell out of there and go somewhere else. Right.
But once again, there's some sort of hold there. It's weird. The people are so terrified to be there, but they stay there until, something eventually draws them out. With the homeowner, with him almost dying. If you wouldn't have gotten out of there and into the hospital, I don't think he would have ever left.
Yeah, maybe finally come to his senses. And it's
Right.
weird also the fact that these people always say in these situations, once they get away from the house, like you were saying with the hotel, they're
Hmm.
just fine. Like everything's back to normal.
Yeah.
But it's when they're in the house that is all chaos and anger and everybody's at each other's throats and all emotional. But as soon as they get away from it, like all the energy just goes away.
Right. Yeah. It's we didn't experience that as far as like the anger goes. The only thing we experienced is eventually we would start getting angry because when I say this place is active 24/7, I mean this place was active 24/7. One of the things I really remember is making my breakfast at like 8 in the morning and having a plate fly across the kitchen and shatter on the floor. And I'm just cussing this thing out. I'm like, dude, I haven't slept in like 3 days now.
Yeah.
Every time we try to sleep, something happens. I can't relax during the daytime. I can't relax during the nighttime. Like, this is ridiculous. But yet we stayed in the house. We could have easily removed ourselves from the situation even for a few hours, but we didn't. Once again, why? I don't know.
Yeah. And y'all were there for a week.
Right. Yep.
So how many of y'all stayed in the house for a week?
It was just me and one other person. So it was just two of us that whole week.
So you said things happened from the get-go, and you're talking about plates flying and things like that. What are some of the other things that happened while you're there during that week? Because you said it's active 24/7.
Oh man, where do we start here? One of the coolest things was I remember we were sitting out in the living room and there was a little door with like a those front doors that have like a little cutout with a stained glass in it.
Yeah.
And I was sitting facing that. My partner had his back towards it, and I saw a little girl just walk right past it and go into the bedroom. And this was the night before the homeowner came over. And my partner's like, no, you didn't. And I explained it to a T to him. And he's like, no, he's like, you need some sleep. And the next day when the homeowner comes over, he talks about this little girl and describes it the exact same way as I did. And it was the one that his daughter supposedly seen. So that was pretty cool. We, shadow figures, voices all the time, electronics that weren't plugged in, turning on by themselves. Paranormal earthquakes, something that I thought never. I mean, 99% of this stuff, if you would have told me that you experienced this or if it's real, I would say you're a liar, you're crazy, you need to go seek some help.
Yeah.
To be honest
Yeah.
with you, I didn't believe in any of this at all, but we just experienced it for a week all the time. And, so getting scratched, I got scratched there. Getting pushed, thrown, literally everything you could think of that could happen did happen there. And I hate it because it's so stereotypical. And that's part of the reason why this project just kind of sat there for years and years and years, because it left honestly a traumatic, imprint on me that entire week. And it was really tough to put this out, knowing that people were going to say, you're making this up. And, it's tough to think that, you're going to have people say that you're making up something that caused you trauma for a long time. So it was really difficult for me to eventually make this a thing and put it out, but eventually I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the book is awesome, and there's so much more in there than we could ever talk on here about. And people just need to go out and pick up the book. But you were talking about the little girl that you saw and that the homeowner saw. And actually, there's a story about a little girl drowning in a well that was under like the front porch.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how true it is, but there was a well, or they say it might have been a cistern that was underneath the porch that was covered up years and years ago. But when this homeowner moved in, it started reopening and it came back. But there was a story about a little girl supposedly falling down there, drowning and dying. And they say that she was buried in the backyard, but I mean, once again, that's all hearsay, and I can't, buy into that.
Right, right. Did you find out anything else about that property specifically? Like, was it Native American land, burial ground, anything like that you could find?
We searched and we searched and we searched because there were claims everything from Native American burial ground to Satanists to, whatever. And honestly, we couldn't find anything at all on that property because it seems to be, like we're talking about a huge piece of property. It's not just one home, it's 3 homes. And I have no idea what could happen on that land, but it seems like something definitely did. Another thing is that, you know, when they went to renovate the home, the people who renovated the home up in the attic, they found these 50-gallon trash cans full of seashells behind there, behind the walls.
Wow.
So someone actually walled these in. And according to Brittany Bob, they could be used as protection and stuff like that. So I don't know. It just seems like there's been something crazy going on for a long time, and a lot of people knew about it for a long time.
Yeah, seashells in the walls. That is weird. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that was something new to me. Especially how many seashells it takes to fill up a 50-gallon trash can, and I guess they had multiple of them.
Well, and you're also talking about central northern Kentucky, nowhere near the ocean or seashells.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and where do you even get like 50-gallon drum of seashells? Like, you know,
I have no idea. I mean, that to me still shocks me that someone did that with an absolute purpose.
Yeah. I've never heard of that in the. I mean, I'm not big on, you know, I don't know about being pagan or witch or anything like that, but yeah, I've never heard of seashells as any kind of protection. That's interesting.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
So basically, this family was tortured, and y'all kind of got a small glimpse of it in the week you were there.
Right.
Just the sleep deprivation alone would kind of, you know, drive you crazy. That these things just wouldn't ever let you rest or, you know, even relax.
Right. Yeah, I was very, very, very sick by the time we ended up leaving. I mean, I was very ill because of the sleep deprivation and everything else.
So with all this crazy stuff going on, I'm just a question in my mind would be, why haven't you done a documentary about this house? Like, you know, if you can catch all the stuff, because just a few videos that I watched on TikTok, I mean, you know, there's shit moving and all that.
So initially we were doing one, and that's why we went back to stay for a week, and the homeowner was funding it. However, we ended up catching evidence, including what we thought was the apparition of the little girl in that home. And after the lady who was kind of like booking this place found out, she said, well, you guys got to turn over the footage. It belongs to us because blah, blah, blah. And essentially what she does is what she used to do, she's recently passed, but she managed multiple properties, and she'd pick up these properties and bring in ghost adventures was her big one, and have them blow it up, and then she'd charge $1,200 a night to stay there. Well, since we captured this evidence, she tried to sue us for all kinds of things. It all ended up falling through, and we're like, well, we can't do anything with this footage. And it just sat and it sat and it sat. And honestly, some of it's scattered here and there. I don't even know where it's at anymore, because the other part was after we left, I didn't want to think about this property, didn't want to think about any of this.
Yeah.
So initially we were thinking about it, but now I have tried to reach out to the current owner of the home, because Bob told me to. I really don't want to, but if we can go back, I will, against my better judgment, and make a documentary. So hopefully, you know, we'll get into contact with someone who owns the property.
Well, one of the things I like about documentaries like that, especially specific homes, and in like your book, is that it makes other people who are going through this not feel so alone, I think.
Exactly. And that was the big drive for me to put this out, because like I said, I would have called anyone crazy for making any of these claims. And after, you know, I experienced, I started feeling bad myself. I was like, man, I would have told him he was insane.
Yeah. And
that he needed to get some help until I experienced it. So, you know, I think there's something in that, you know, putting it out and let other people know you're not crazy and you're not alone in experiences. And, you know, maybe I can't say there's help, but there's something out there for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times people just want somebody to listen to them and not think they're crazy.
Right. Absolutely.
I think that goes a long way.
Absolutely.
So everybody needs to go out and check out Taylor Mill Horror. It is on, like I said, on Amazon Kindle and on your website, taylormillhorror.com, that you can order the physical copy of the book as well. And so here recently, y'all filmed a documentary at the Randolph County Infirmary.
Yeah.
And like I said, that documentary is coming out today as this episode comes out on Prime Video. You can go rent it, and it's called Phantom Farm. So how did y'all get involved with doing a documentary at the Randolph County Infirmary?
So to me, it was kind of out of the blue. One day Bob just messaged me. He was like, "Hey, what are you doing this week?" I was like, "Yeah, nothing really. I got a couple days off." He's like, "Do you want to go on an investigation?" I'm like, "Yeah, obviously." And then he threw it at me that it's at Randolph. I'm like, yeah, you should have led with this. Yes, I'm there. Let's go. Because it's a property I knew about for a long time, but never got to go there. But the reason why Bob got there was because of one of his friends was on investigation there, and his partner was scratched, and they couldn't make any sense of it. So they contact Bob, and Bob's like, "Okay, I kind of believe this guy. There might be something to it." So when he calls me, then here we are.
Yeah, and the Randolph County Infirmary, it's been on a bunch of the TV shows as well.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of it's in Indiana, but not far from Cincinnati, if I remember correctly.
I did not pass high school geography, so I cannot confirm or deny that. But I can say it is in Indiana.
Yeah. When I've looked it up on a map, I believe it's not far from Cincinnati, but yeah. And y'all are kind of based, like, that's why Bob got the call, because all of y'all kind of live in Ohio, right?
Right, yeah, we're all in Ohio.
So y'all went and filmed this documentary, which some of the things that happen to y'all are insane, and even caught on film is crazy. But also the way that y'all present the documentary, and this is the way documentaries should be, especially in the paranormal. It should be presented that, okay, we're not jumping to conclusions. We're just going to put it out there and let you make up your own mind. And that y'all did a great job of that, of saying, this is what I experienced. Can I completely tell you that it was a ghost? No. And I love that approach, because none of us know. And I hate that shit on TV where it's like paranormal expert. You can't be an expert in something you can't prove.
Exactly. And that was the good thing about our group, is that honestly, we're all really big skeptics. Even myself, Bob gets annoyed sometimes because I'm a real big skeptic of anything and everything, and so was Tyler Terry. So, we had the perfect group to go in there and just be extremely skeptical. The amount of stuff that we threw out that could have been presented as evidence to anyone else is insane. And there's actually a couple things in the documentary that we didn't even mention. There's evidence in there that's not mentioned for people to find. And so, we just really want to make something. We said, okay, what would we want to watch? Because we're tired of these hyped up, theatrical, almost like movie production, like, shows, documentaries, whatever you want to call them. I mean, let's just be real. Let's be bare bones. Let's just do it the way that we would like to see it presented to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes through as very authentic too, that y'all are being authentically yourselves. And I call myself a skeptical believer, because I'm like you, I'm very much a skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
And my motto when we go in to investigate anywhere as an investigator, my motto is, I'm not going in to investigate a haunting. I'm going in to investigate stories of a haunting.
Right. Because
until you experience something, you're just getting stories of haunting. And that's not to say that I discount anybody's stories, because I don't, because I wasn't there when whatever happened to them. But until something happens to me and I prove to myself that this place is, could be haunted and have paranormal activity, I'm going to be extremely skeptical.
Yeah, and the other cool part about it is that until the documentary was quote-unquote released for us, I never knew the history of the place. Bob and Brittany never knew the history of the place. So the only people who knew the claims and the history of the place when we went there and filmed this documentary were Nathan and Tyler. None of the rest of us knew anything other than he was supposedly scratched in the basement. We didn't really know what the infirmary was used for. We didn't know the claims of the hauntings. And we don't want to know that stuff. Whenever we go somewhere, we don't want to know the claims. We don't want to know the history, because that can really affect, the way you investigate, and also it can make you draw conclusions that aren't really there.
Right. Yeah, and that's I'm a big history person. I'm the one usually on our team that knows all the history and the claims. But it's awesome to not know at the same time, because you get correlation to claims, and if you don't know those claims, like you're saying, there's no way you can be influenced by them.
Exactly.
So it makes it even more part of evidence when it does happen to you.
Right. It's always good to have that one person who knows everything, and then everyone else is left in the dark, so that that one person can be like, aha, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And also I think one of the reasons I really enjoyed watching the film too was because y'all are so like-minded in the way that I investigate, as a serious investigator, and not jump to conclusions. And y'all didn't, like we're saying, y'all didn't throw any dramatizations in there or,
Right.
fucking reenactments that are ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's all what you see is what you get. This is what we found, and this is our opinions on that experience, but you make up your own mind.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of how we want to do it. And I guess you could say the big piece that we caught in there. I couldn't tell you. I mean, we went back there I think maybe 4 times trying to debunk that.
Yeah.
And I kid you not when I say we spent hundreds and hundreds of hours doing everything we can, even going back there to try to debunk it. I mean, we wanted so badly to debunk that evidence, you don't even know, and we couldn't.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I was chatting with Bob while I was watching it, and he's like, "Where you at?" He was so excited. He's like, "Where you at in the film?" And I'm like, "I'm on this part." And he's like, "Oh, just wait. Like this is, something's gonna happen." Yeah, and then I got to the part, and people just have to watch it. I don't want to tell them what we're talking about. But
right.
When I got to that part, even though y'all do like the replay a couple times, I actually rewound it quite a few times myself,
Oh yeah.
To experience it again.
And in that section is one of the parts where there's a couple pieces of evidence that we didn't put into the documentary, but it's definitely there.
Yeah.
So if you watch that, rewatch it a couple times and listen and pay attention, and you'll probably hear a couple extra things that don't get mentioned.
Yeah, I would definitely have to rent it and go back and watch again. And like I said, I'm going to share it out because it's definitely my top 5 favorite paranormal documentaries. Yeah, y'all just have, and I hope y'all have plans to make more. I know this one is just coming out, and y'all, just coming off of getting it done, editing and all that post-production shit. But I hope y'all have plans in the works for more.
Oh yeah, we've already been talking about that, and I think we might know a location, hopefully. We just got to wait until we can book it. But right after we did our screening, we said, okay, what's the next one? We got to do something.
Yeah.
So we're already talking about it, preparing for the next one for sure.
That's awesome. I know the book has been out for a couple years now. I can't believe I didn't discover it until now because I'm always on Amazon, and looking at books and things for guests and all that. But what else? Right. What do you have specifically for you coming up?
For me, I'm actually working on a couple more books. Nothing in the nonfiction realm right now. I do a lot of photography, so I have a photography book coming out. I have a children's book coming out. I got a horror novel coming out, all hopefully this year. So those are my 3 main focuses right now. Now that the documentary is over. And
any upcoming investigations that you're excited about?
Right now, no. However, I will say that Bob and I have started having some really odd activity picking up, in our day-to-day lives. And usually 99% of the time that happens, it means that something's coming. And for us to start experiencing things at the same time, I'm going to say there's nothing coming up, but I have a feeling that there is, because there's just too many odd things going on right now for there to be nothing.
Yeah, it kind of steers you without you even knowing it.
Right, exactly.
Well, I thank you for coming on and chatting with me today. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was great.
Yeah, not a problem. Everybody go check out Austin's book, Taylor Mill Horror. And like I said, you can get it on Amazon Kindle or at his website, taylormillhorror.com. And also go check out the videos on the Taylor Mill Horror TikTok. There's some paranormal activity in there, as well as the actual owner that all this stuff happened to, talking about some of the experiences he had. And also go on Prime Video and rent Phantom Farm and watch it. I guarantee you absolutely love it. I need to go online and leave y'all a review because I just love the film. And everybody needs to stay on the lookout for Austin Lawrence's new books and more documentaries coming from him and Bob and Brittany and crew. And once again, Austin, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, everybody, stay safe out there. We'll see you next time. Have a good day. Thank you for listening to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Join us next week for an all-new, amazing guest. And in the meantime, please go on Spotify or Apple and give us a rate and a review. And go over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you would like to submit your story, You can email it to unseenparanormalpodcast@gmail.com, and you can remain anonymous if you like. Once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there.